Hey everyone, welcome back to the Poplar Report. Pakistan has just collapsed back into darkness again. 220 million people in the dark. The power has been out for well over 12 hours now. We're closing in on 18-ish hours at the time of this filming. They are slowly starting to bring power back online. What happened? How is that happening there repeatedly, and can that happen in other places? Pakistan has had a similar situation happen before, where they had their phase get out of whack again, and apparently that sounds like it's what happened again here. We're getting conflicting reports from different ministers in the Pakistani government, one saying a voltage spike, others saying that frequency variations, there maybe both are true. But the issue is that the power needs to come in on alternating current, right? And the problem is that when one generator is alternating at a different frequency than the other, they start to kind of cancel each other out. So like you got your waves kind of coming at each other, and when they hit each other, they can actually cancel each other out. And that's kind of what can start to happen if some of the generators or any of the transformers, that kind of thing, get out of whack on that, and it can start cascading across the grid as you start knocking components offline, like whole circuits. That can throw other things out of phase, and this is kind of what has apparently spread again in southern Pakistan. Something got out of phase apparently, or a voltage spike somewhere in the country, but that southern Pakistan phase variation does sound like it's more informed, and it came from the power minister as well. So how can that happen elsewhere? The issue is partially just computers. The computer systems that manage the systems. We've seen with Pakistan that they don't have really good power management systems, because this has happened before, for one, and also because impoverished nation, they've kind of let some of their power grid slowly decay over the years, and they have not kept up with it. Also, the issue also is renewable energy has problem with phase as well. They don't have the natural inertia that a rotating generator does have. Wind does not have this, as well as solar, of course, doesn't have a moving part. But big generators spin, and if they get slightly out of phase, the rotating inertia of the generators can actually kind of adapt to the phase and kind of keep everyone kind of synced up. And so that's been something that's been used over the years. The problem is that you don't have that rotating inertia when it comes to wind. Even though you have things spinning, they're not spinning with momentum. They're kind of spinning at a constant rate, and so it's different, and they can't really use that. Solar panels. So Pakistan has invested a good bit into renewable energies, particularly in southern Pakistan. So maybe that's kind of where this is coming from. They had massive flooding this year. Their flooding took out a lot of their fields, lost most of their crops in a lot of areas, devastated Pakistan pretty severely, of course, after the cough lockdowns and all that kind of stuff that happened the year prior. So Pakistan is really reeling, and them losing power in the dead of winter there. It's winter time in Pakistan as well. Pakistan is not as cold as a lot of places in North America when you look at the lowlands. When you get up into the mountains, it actually is colder than North America in most places. So like in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I worked in that region of northern Pakistan, not in northern Pakistan, but near northern Pakistan. And that, by the way, I'm saying Pakistan correctly. If you say it Pakistan, you're just American, okay? Nobody else says it like that. Anyway, but northern Pakistan is kind of up in the area where I was doing humanitarian work for several years, and so I'm familiar with the area, but high elevation, and in the northern bits of the country, it gets awfully cold. And for the country to be completely without power, they have slowly started to bring individual grids on, starting with the cities. So there's some of the city grids are starting to come back up, but of course they have to rebuild the whole thing. It's like a Jenga set. When you pull out the wrong piece and the whole thing falls down, you can't just, it doesn't just go up immediately. You have to build it back up, and obviously use the box if you're doing a Jenga set, but there's no box for the power system. They have to build block by block by block, and slowly add new circuits onto the operating system, and keep building from there until they've got their house of cards rebuilt, which may be a better example. So in the United States, this has happened, has almost happened several times. The Northeast had a blackout that cascaded starting in New York, and that kind of took a lot out. But we haven't had it happen recently, and part of that is just great systems management, but that has started to degrade, not the management of it, but the quality of the power generation and stuff like that. Pretty quickly, the power services in the United States will start going to rolling blackouts. We're seeing that in South Africa, where they're able to keep their grid stable by just shutting people off. Now, if this happens too fast, things get out of phase, and they're not monitoring it rapidly enough. They don't have the computer systems that are actively engaging in that. They don't have fail-safes that will start automatically load shedding. Then you can have issues like this, where the whole grid just destabilizes and the whole thing collapses. Everything just gets shut off. If you're excluding circuits faster than you're compensating for excluding those circuits, and shutting down power generators and stuff like that to compensate for that, that's where you start having just complete issues, where just like you just shut everything down, and then you just try to pick up the pieces afterwards. So is this possible in the United States? Absolutely it is. And as our energy grid becomes more complicated because of renewables, this is an increasing possibility, but the management systems are actually quite good, so that is the plus on that side of things. So we're in good shape in some regards, but we're kind of getting worse and worse as we go along due to the mix-up of things. And with the power grid offline like that, how fast could the United States get its grid back up? Hours, days, it could be days. If the whole East Coast interconnect goes down, it could be days rebuilding that from the ground up. That's kind of what happened with when the cascade happened out of New York. It took almost a day to get everyone back online. If it's like the Texas interconnect or the the Texas interconnect is a lot smaller. If it's the West Coast interconnect, that's also another big one, and that would cause a lot of problems bringing that back online. So one thing cascading to the next, but from what we gather, from what I understand, the interconnects won't necessarily collapse the next neighboring interconnects. Now, Canada, of course, is on the West Coast interconnect and the East Coast interconnect, so Canada is actually part of that whole thing, and Texas is just, well, you know, Texas. Sometimes you kind of envy them, and sometimes you're just kind of like, what are you doing? Yeah. You're on your own, and you're kind of up to your own things. So that could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, depending. And when they had their grid start doing mass load shedding a couple years back, they were kind of on their own because they couldn't bring in enough power from the East Coast interconnect in order to kind of bring things back online. So a lot of things to think about there. Power outages and cascading effects can happen. But when they happen, it takes a lot to bring those things back online. You may be out of power for multiple days. And if it's serious and things are damaged, you may not be able to bring the power grid back online for weeks. until some components are fixed. Some critical components could cause problems. Of course, the FBI is warning that supposedly some Nazis or something like that are targeting the East Coast Interconnect up in the New England connections to Pennsylvania or something like that. Of course, who believes the FBI anymore? So who knows? It might just be an FBI cell that's planning on this thing or something. I don't know. All right, folks. If you found this video useful, helpful, or informative, you might want to check out this other video right here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you later. Steve Poplar out.